Good evening, everyone. Imagine standing at a crossroads where every path leads to a different future. That's where America finds itself today in 2026. As we approach the midterm elections this November, the United States is not just choosing representatives, it's choosing a vision for its role in the world. The Trump administration's foreign policy strategy has emerged as one of the most ambitious and transformative approaches to international relations in recent memory. From the halls of NATO headquarters in Brussels to the contested waters of the South China Sea, from the frozen expanse of Greenland to the oil-rich landscapes of Venezuela, American foreign policy is being redefined in real time. But here's what makes this moment truly historic. This isn't happening in a vacuum. Every decision, every military deployment, every diplomatic negotiation carries the weight of domestic political calculation. The American people will render their judgment in 9 months, and both parties know it. So tonight, let's analyze what's really happening beneath the headlines. Let's understand the strategy, the stakes, and what it means for America and the world. The cornerstone of the administration's approach rests on a document released just weeks ago, the 2026 National Defense Strategy. This isn't just bureaucratic paperwork. It's a blueprint that reveals how America's leadership views the world and its challenges. The strategy identifies China as the most formidable state competitor America has faced since the 19th century. Think about that for a moment. We're not talking about the Cold War Soviet Union. We're talking about a rival that some analysts believe surpasses even that historical challenge. This assessment has profound implications. The proposed defense spending increase to 6% of GDP represents the most significant military investment commitment in generations. To put this in perspective, during the height of the Cold War, defense spending reached similar levels. This signals a fundamental shift in how America perceives global threats. But there's something deeper here that deserves our attention. This strategy isn't just about military might. It reflects a philosophical transformation in American foreign policy thinking, one that emphasizes what the administration calls peace through strength and prosperity through leverage. But here's what makes this moment truly historic. This isn't happening in a vacuum. Every decision, every military deployment, every diplomatic negotiation carries the weight of domestic political calculation. The American people will render their judgment in 9 months, and both parties know it. So tonight, let's analyze what's really happening beneath the headlines. Let's understand the strategy, the stakes, and what it means for America and the world. For millions of Americans, these policy shifts evoke powerful emotions. Veterans who served in NATO countries feel a sense of pride mixed with concern. Families with loved ones in the military wonder what these changes mean for their safety. Business owners see both opportunity and uncertainty in this new landscape. This is the human dimension that often gets lost in policy discussions. Behind every strategic document are real people whose lives will be affected by these decisions. NATO and the transatlantic relationship. Perhaps no aspect of the current strategy has generated more global attention than the administration's approach to NATO. The president's statements calling for increased European defense spending have sparked intense debate on both sides of the Atlantic. Here's the analytical framework we need to understand. The United States has long carried a disproportionate share of NATO's financial and military burden. Since the alliance's founding in 1949, this arrangement has been justified by America's interest in European stability and its role as the guarantor of the post-war order. The current administration argues that times have changed. European economies have recovered and grown wealthy. The question being posed is straightforward. Should Europe take greater responsibility for its own defense? From an emotional standpoint, this debate touches something deep in the American psyche. There's frustration, years of feeling that allies aren't contributing their fair share. But there's also anxiety, worry that weakening these alliances could create instability that ultimately harms American interests. The balanced analysis requires us to acknowledge both perspectives. European allies have indeed increased their defense spending in recent years, but many still fall short of the 2% GDP target. Simultaneously, the security architecture that NATO provides has prevented major conflicts in Europe for nearly 80 years. The Venezuela question. The situation in Venezuela represents another critical element of the current strategy. Recent military actions aimed at the Maduro regime have raised questions about American interventionism in Latin America. Let's analyze this carefully. Venezuela's humanitarian crisis has created ripple effects throughout the Western Hemisphere. Millions of refugees, destabilization of neighboring countries, and concerns about authoritarian influence in America's neighborhood. The administration's approach appears to be rooted in the Monroe Doctrine's modern interpretation, that instability in the Americas directly threatens U.S. security and economic interests. The strategy documents emphasize protecting the homeland and ensuring hemispheric security. But there's complexity here that demands our attention. Latin America has a long, painful history with U.S. intervention. Many nations in the region view American military action with deep skepticism, regardless of the stated intentions. This creates a diplomatic challenge that extends beyond the immediate tactical situation. The emotional resonance is powerful on multiple levels. American citizens worry about immigration flows from unstable nations. Venezuelan expatriates in the U.S. feel hope mixed with fear for their homeland. Regional partners grapple with their own domestic pressures while trying to maintain relationships with Washington. The Greenland and Arctic strategy. The administration's renewed interest in Greenland and Arctic territories might seem unusual at first glance, but it reflects profound strategic thinking about the 21st century great power competition. Climate change is opening new shipping routes through the Arctic, routes that could fundamentally alter global trade patterns. Greenland sits at the center of this transformation. It also contains vast mineral resources, including rare earth elements, critical for modern technology and military systems. China and Russia have both increased their Arctic presence significantly in recent years. The strategic calculus is clear. The Arctic is becoming a new theater of competition, and the United States is determined not to be left behind. This element of the strategy evokes a particular kind of emotion, a sense of urgency mixed with opportunism. There's recognition that the world is changing in fundamental ways, and nations that fail to adapt will find themselves at a strategic disadvantage. The core of strategic competition. If there's one thread that ties together virtually every aspect of the administration's foreign policy, it's the focus on China. The National Defense Strategy's assessment is unambiguous. China represents the pacing challenge for American power. Let's break down what this means in practical terms. China has built the world's largest navy by ship count. Its economy, while facing challenges, remains the second largest globally. Its technological capabilities in areas like artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and hypersonic weapons are advancing rapidly. Its Belt and Road Initiative has extended Chinese influence across multiple continents. The administration's strategy toward China operates on multiple levels simultaneously. Economic competition, the focus on reshoring critical industries, reducing dependence on Chinese manufacturing, and building alternative supply chains represents a fundamental restructuring of the global economy. This isn't just about tariffs. It's about creating resilient systems that don't rely on a strategic competitor for essential goods. Military positioning. The emphasis on the Indo-Pacific region, strengthening alliances with Japan, South Korea, and Australia, and increasing freedom of navigation operations in contested waters all signal America's commitment to maintaining its military presence in China's neighborhood. Technological rivalry. The restrictions on semiconductor exports, the push to dominate next-generation technologies, and the race for AI supremacy represent a competition that will shape the remainder of the 21st century. The human element. For American workers, this competition is deeply personal. Factory workers who lost jobs to outsourcing see an opportunity for manufacturing to return home. Tech workers in Silicon Valley navigate complex relationships with Chinese markets and research partnerships. Military families prepare for the possibility that this cold competition could one day turn hot. For Chinese Americans, the situation creates difficult emotions, pride in their heritage, loyalty to their country, and sometimes painful experiences with suspicion or discrimination as suspicions about Chinese espionage have increased. This is where analysis must be tempered with humanity. Geopolitical competition between governments should never justify prejudice against individuals. Politics and policy intertwined. Here's where we must be analytical but honest. We're in an election year, and that reality shapes everything. The administration knows that foreign policy success can translate into domestic political support. Strong action that appears to advance American interests plays well with many voters. The image of decisive leadership on the world stage has historically benefited incumbent parties. But there's a flip side. Foreign policy missteps can be politically devastating. Military conflicts that drag on or escalate can turn public opinion quickly. Economic policies that raise prices or disrupt markets face backlash at the ballot box. The opposition party, meanwhile, faces its own calculations. They must criticize policies they believe are misguided while avoiding the appearance of undermining American interests abroad. They must offer alternative visions while being careful not to appear weak or indecisive. This creates a complex dynamic where genuine strategic considerations mix with electoral politics. It's not cynical to acknowledge this. It's simply the reality of democratic governance. What voters are thinking, polling and analysis suggest American voters have mixed feelings about these foreign policy initiatives. There's broad support for competing with China, but concerns about military entanglements. There's appreciation for strong defense, but questions about the cost. There's desire for American leadership, but wariness of overextension. These contradictions reflect the complexity of public opinion in a diverse democracy. Americans want their country to be strong, respected, and secure, but they also want their government focused on domestic concerns like healthcare, education, and economic opportunity. The emotional landscape is one of cautious hope mixed with anxiety. Hope that America can navigate these challenges successfully. Anxiety about the risks of miscalculation in a dangerous world. As we analyze this election year foreign policy strategy, several truths emerge. First, the world has entered a new era of great power competition. Whether we like it or not, whether the current administration's specific policies are right or wrong, this basic reality is undeniable. China's rise, Russia's revisionism, and the fragmentation of the post-Cold War order create challenges that America must address. Second, there are no easy answers. Every policy choice involves trade-offs. Strengthening alliances requires investment and compromise. Competing economically with China means accepting some costs. Maintaining military readiness requires resources that could be used elsewhere. Third, the American people will ultimately decide. In 9 months, voters will have the opportunity to either endorse this direction or choose a different path. That's the beauty and the challenge of democratic foreign policy. It must ultimately reflect the will of the people. A call for informed engagement. As citizens, we owe it to ourselves and our country to engage with these issues thoughtfully. That means looking beyond partisan talking points to understand the underlying strategic realities. It means acknowledging complexity rather than pretending there are simple solutions. It means holding our leaders accountable while also recognizing the difficult choices they face. The emotions we feel about these issues, pride, concern, hope, fear, are all valid. But they should inspire us to learn more, think deeper, and engage more meaningfully with these crucial questions. The emotional landscape is one of cautious hope mixed with anxiety. Hope that America can navigate these challenges successfully. Anxiety about the risks of miscalculation in a dangerous world. The U.S. election year foreign policy strategy of 2026 represents a pivotal moment. The decisions being made today will shape America's role in the world for decades to come. They'll affect our security, our prosperity, and our values. As we approach November, let's commit to being informed citizens. Let's seek to understand before we judge. Let's engage with these issues with both our heads and our hearts, because ultimately, in a democracy, foreign policy isn't just what our leaders do in our name. It's a reflection of who we are and what we value as a nation. Thank you for your time and attention to these critical matters.